The coffee empire's founder didn't die building his business. He died destroying himself at 130 mph. Most people know Tim Horton as a coffee brand, a name on a cup they grab every morning. But the man behind it lived a completely different story than the public ever saw. Tim Horton was a hockey legend first, a tough defenseman who played for the Toronto Maple Leafs. When he retired from the NHL, he built a donut and coffee empire that became a Canadian institution. His image was disciplined, entrepreneurial, legendary, but behind closed doors, Horton was spiraling. On February 1st, 1974, that carefully constructed image shattered in a single moment of high-speed chaos. The real Tim Horton died that night, and almost nobody knew the truth about who he actually was. On the night of February 1st, 1974, Tim Horton got behind the wheel of his De Tomaso Pantera, a $15,000 Italian sports car that matched his newfound wealth perfectly. What nobody knew was that his bloodstream contained cocaine and alcohol at twice the legal limit. He was driving at 130 miles per hour through Toronto when he lost control on the Gardiner Expressway. The car wrapped around a concrete support pillar. Horton was pronounced dead at the scene, age 44. The official story got sanitized quickly. Newspapers called it a simple accident, a tragic loss for the hockey legend and entrepreneur. But the toxicology report told a completely different story. This wasn't a man who'd had one drink too many. This was someone in the grip of a serious substance abuse problem, mixing uppers and depressants in a way that suggests deep desperation, not casual indulgence. The De Tomaso Pantera itself became a symbol of recklessness, a car that required precision and sobriety to handle, driven by a man who had neither. His death wasn't an accident in the traditional sense. It was the inevitable conclusion of a double life that had finally collapsed. The empire builder had been self-destructing all along, and nobody close enough to help had been willing to see it. Psychologists have identified a pattern they call acquired sociopathy, and Tim Horton was a textbook case. It's the phenomenon where extreme success and wealth convince someone they've transcended normal rules. The more power you accumulate, the more your brain literally rewires itself to believe consequences don't apply to you anymore. Here's what makes it insidious. Horton wasn't born this way. He was disciplined as a hockey player, methodical as a businessman. But by the early 70s, he'd built an empire. He owned restaurants, drove exotic cars, had access to anything he wanted. And every time he took a risk, speeding through Toronto, using cocaine at parties, drinking heavily, nothing happened. No accident, no arrest, no real consequences. This feedback loop is devastating. Each time you dodge a bullet, your brain calculates that you're genuinely untouchable. You're not reckless. You're just operating at a different level than ordinary people. Scientists studying this in CEOs and celebrities found they literally lose the ability to accurately assess danger. Their risk assessment centers atrophy. For Horton, that meant escalating behavior, faster cars, harder drugs, more alcohol. The crash wasn't an accident. It was the inevitable endpoint of someone whose success had completely disconnected him from reality. He genuinely believed, at 130 miles per hour, that the rules of physics didn't apply to him either. The people closest to Tim Horton saw it coming. In the months before February 1974, friends and family members noticed a dramatic shift in his behavior that went far beyond the occasional indulgence. He was making increasingly reckless business decisions, withdrawing from long-time associates, and showing up to events disheveled and unpredictable. His drinking had escalated from social to constant, and those around him whispered about cocaine use that seemed to be spiraling out of control. But here's the psychological trap that sealed his fate. Nobody could tell him no. When you're a hockey legend and a self-made millionaire, the people in your life stop functioning as truth-tellers and start functioning as enablers. His wealth meant he could always find new friends willing to party with him. His status meant business partners overlooked erratic judgment. His fame meant that even obvious warning signs got rationalized as eccentricity rather than crisis. One associate later recalled watching Horton drive recklessly through Toronto streets weeks before the crash, laughing maniacally at speeds that terrified passengers. Nobody intervened. Nobody could. The very success that had built his empire had also built an impenetrable wall around him that made genuine help impossible. So here's what Tim Horton's death really meant. It wasn't a tragedy about coffee or hockey. It was proof that success without accountability is a ticking bomb. Wealth and status don't fix broken people. They hide them until it's too late. The real lesson isn't that a legendary founder crashed his car. It's that no amount of achievement protects you from yourself. And sometimes the person who needs an intervention most is the one everyone's too afraid to confront.